Trying to understand English grammar is like trying to solve a mystery. English grammar is irregular, contradictory, and confusing. Fortunately, though, you don't have to walk these dark streets of grammatical confusion by yourself. I'm English teacher Paul Duke, and on this show I'll be your grammar detective. Each week, we'll investigate communication crimes and suspicious sentences, context clues and example evidence. Together, we'll solve these English mysteries once and for all. Welcome to Hard-Boiled English Live. Good evening, Grammar Gumshoes, and welcome to Hard-Boiled English Live. It is May 10th, 2024. I'm your humble host and grammar detective, Paul Duke, and I am thrilled to be with you once again. On this show, we investigate and solve your English grammar mysteries. But we're not going to do that tonight. Instead, tonight, we're going to interrogate a witness. Now, what the hell does that mean? Really, it just means we're going to interview a guest. Now, let me tell you a little bit of a background about this guest. When I first started exploring the idea of hosting this live stream on YouTube, I took a look at all the YouTube English content that was out there. And there's a lot of English teachers. There are a lot of English teachers producing a lot of English content on YouTube, which is great. It's great for you learners. However, I also noticed that the quality of educational material and content ranged. It ranged from really fantastic to pretty good to actually pretty bad. And my criteria for that was, is it engaging and entertaining content? That's important. But most important, is it accurate information, educationally accurate information, and is it helpful? Our guest today, in my opinion, is on the extreme end of that spectrum. Our guest today is, in my opinion, the best English teacher on YouTube. And it's a tremendous honor to introduce her to those of you who are not familiar with her. And for those of you who are familiar with her, well, perhaps you get to know me a little bit too in the process. Now, before we get to our guest, let me just say a little bit of something about myself. I am obviously the host of Hard-Boiled English Live, which we've been streaming now for 3 years. I think this is episode number 135. So my YouTube channel is called The Grammar Detective. And on that channel, you can also find my long-form web series, which is called English Weirdness. And English Weirdness is a series I made with my students. And it features little dramatizations of miscommunication, grammar going wrong. It features animation and what I think are really detailed explanations of these confusing grammar points. So English Weirdness is on my YouTube channel. Check that out. By the way, if you're not familiar with my YouTube channel, please subscribe. You can just scan the QR code. It'll take you right to the YouTube channel. I'd be honored and pleased, obviously, to have you part of my community. What else can I tell you? I'm also the co-host of a writing podcast called The Trouble with Writing Podcast. And on that podcast with my two co-hosts, excellent writing coaches, and we each work with writers of a different genre. One of our coaches is a journalism writing coach. Another is a content and copywriting writing coach, and I coach academic writers. So we put out a podcast once a month. You can find that on my channel. So that's a little bit about me. I'm also streaming to you today live from Vancouver, Canada, which is the west coast of Canada. And if you're not familiar where Canada is, it's right on top of the USA. And if you're not familiar with the west coast, it's kind of right on top of Los Angeles and Seattle and San Francisco. Well, I want to be respectful of our guest's time today. So without delay, let's bring on our guest. Stay with me for one moment, and we'll bring on our special witness. Welcome to the show, Arnell.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Paul. Well, I'm excited to
Great.
be here. Yes. And I have to admit something, Paul. I sat through your introduction. First of all, thank you very much for such a kind and generous introduction. But the longer I sit, the more nervous my microphone is attached here. So if you hear my heart beating, just ignore it. It's my heart. Everything's fine. That might be what you hear.
Okay, thank you for sharing that with us. I think you mentioned this is the first live stream you've done, right? Is that true?
It is my first live. I've been interviewed before, but this is my first live. Thank you for everyone. Thank you to everyone for being here. Thank you, Paul, for having me again. This is going to be fun. It's going to be great. And I get to see how live works.
Mm-hmm. One of the greatest things about a live stream that you'll get really quickly is that people are watching all over the world right now.
Yeah. Yes.
And they're commenting, and we can talk to them. We can say hello to Henata. We can say hello to Allah Hosban. It's a great way to reach your audience and interact with them. And that's what I like about it most, is just the range of people and where they're watching from.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I can see a lot of wonderful comments. Yeah. Thank you. This is nice. And just going on, I'm ready, Paul. This is my first live. I'm ready. I have my pen and paper in case I need.
That's
I have
wonderful.
my water. I have my tissue in case I get a bit sweaty during this live, but
that does
I'm
happen.
prepared. Yeah. Yes. So I'm ready for anything you're going to throw my way and any questions you have coming in.
Yeah. Now, I set this up as witness interrogation. Obviously, I'm not going to interrogate you. That's just sort of to fit the theme of the show.
Yeah.
Please, by all means, feel no pressure here. This is a friendly conversation. This is my great opportunity to get to know you a little bit and perhaps get to know your audience a little bit and vice versa. So, but I do understand when you're live, it can be very nerve-wracking. For example, I'm in my home studio and I'm surrounded by lights, and it's also approaching summer where I am, and it gets very hot in here. Yeah. And of course, if I sweat, there's no hiding it. So I tend to close the show down for the summer because it just gets untenable. But these are the considerations when you're live.
It's true. You have to think about different things. I mean, you had a hat on earlier and your trench coat. It's good you took those off just to, get the air flowing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have fans in my room, especially my computer fan. But if I run them, it bleeds into the microphone.
Yeah, right.
So you can't even cool down with fans. These are the challenges of streaming live.
I love how we're maybe 5 minutes into this conversation and we've been talking about how hot we're getting. This is important stuff.
Important stuff, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we've got lots of people watching from all over the place here, and it's lovely. And I can see that some of your followers and audience and students are here, some of mine. And this is one of the reasons I love having guests on the show, is that we get to share our audiences. And I know that a lot of, let's face it, YouTube can be competitive. And I don't like feeling as though I'm trying to borrow your audience or hijack it in any way. So it's one of the reasons I say it is a great honor that you're with me, because I know you are bringing audience to my humble channel. But vice versa, I want very, very sincerely for however many followers I have to get to know you, because I have a feeling you'll be doing content on YouTube much longer than I will be. I'm sort of approaching a possible end to it.
Okay.
And I've always recommended your videos to my learners. So I want them to be, I want them to have an authoritative source to turn to. And you are it, in my opinion.
Paul. Thank you very much. Going back to subscriber count, subscriber count is not always an indication of the quality of a teacher. I think you mentioned something earlier about having great teachers online and then maybe teachers who aren't the best. And when I saw your channel, I love the detective theme. And when I watch you, it's clear you are very, a lot of knowledge. And I also want to bring my followers to see you. And for everything, if you listen to Paul, his voice is amazing. It's so clear. It's perfect. He's perfect for your listening. So I do recommend his channel, The Grammar Detective.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's interesting. When I started doing my live stream, I didn't know, I had the equipment set up for another purpose, for teaching an online class, and I didn't really have an idea of what I could do online. But then I realized something that used to happen at a language school was that students from other classes and teachers from other classes would often come to me stumped with a grammar question that maybe a student asked the teacher and they didn't have an answer for, and they would come to me because it became clear to them and to me that I had some knack for understanding and explaining the nuances, those little tricky contradictions and exceptions that exist in English.
Yes.
And so I thought, well, why don't I just do that live? Let the audience ask me questions, and then I'll break it down on the whiteboard.
Yeah.
And the more I did that, the more I realized it is like detective work. What I'm doing is less, it's not really teaching or instructing, it's analyzing. It's investigating a sentence that looks weird or a student can't understand. Yeah.
Yes. No, I think that's, a lot of people get kind of put off by grammar because when someone hears grammar, they think, oh, boring. They think it doesn't make sense. But actually, if you just look for patterns, there's a lot of nuances in there. When you understand the nuance, it kind of opens everything up. Like, oh, that makes sense. Yes.
I agree.
So it's a sentence not correct. But why? Why is it not correct? That's the whole question is why is it not correct? So grammar detective work is interesting, despite what people may think. I love grammar.
And I'm sure you've had this experience too. There are a lot of English teachers who are great English teachers, but for them, grammar is an uncomfortable dimension of their craft. Yeah. And maybe that's something they avoid and they focus on pronunciation class or writing class or something. Yes. And that's perfectly fine. But I really firmly believe grammar is an essential element of language learning, whether you like it or not, or whether the traditional method of learning it and teaching it is beneficial or not. It still needs to happen.
Yes. So, you'll hear things like throw away your grammar book. Or any book. Some people say throw away your vocabulary book or stop learning new vocabulary. Right. Kind of catchy titles, but if you want to you need that grammar. Just a little tweak in the grammar can mean something else. So it is a really important part of the language.
I also always say this, but so my regular viewers will find this redundant and boring and repetitive, but grammar is the architecture through which we express meaning. So if you want to express meaning clearly, you've got to choose the right architecture. If you want to cross a river, you need the architecture of a bridge, not an office tower. The office tower won't get you over the river. Yeah. So every grammar structure allows a different kind of expression, different kind of meaning to be expressed. Yes. So I always like to remind students that the grammar is entwined with meaning and the way we
Yeah,
use it.
yeah.
It's not separate. It's not just a bunch of rules.
Yes, not just boring rules on paper.
We've got some lovely comments here, and I agree with all of them. I'm just going to go through them quickly.
Oh, thank you, Tony. I can read out a few of your names. Yeah. Nadez, great.
Oh. Okay, yeah. Great. It's lovely to meet new learners around the world. Okay, let's start our interrogation, Arnell, if you don't mind. I'm sure some people know you and others don't, but let's go back to the beginning. Can you tell me a little bit about your background, where you started your career? Well, let's go further. Where were you born and raised? And specifically, how did your life take you to English teaching?
Ooh, well, this is a question I get a lot. Where are you from? Because I think people look at me, they listen to me, but they can see I'm mixed. So, dad's American and Chinese Korean. So I am mixed race, and I know a lot of people get some funny comments like, "Oh, are you from this country? Are you from that country?" But I'm American. I was born in Arizona, and the story becomes a bit complicated. Okay, even I can't remember everything that has gone on. So I was born in Arizona when I was 6 months. So if you ask me questions about Arizona, I won't be able to answer anything. Oh my God, because of my dad's job, the family moved from Arizona, Texas, Hawaii, South Korea, Germany. So I lived in Germany for 10 years. A lot of people ask me, are you fluent in German? Well, I went to an American school in Germany, and there was a really big American community there. So now I can understand German. I can very basic conversation. No, I couldn't teach German, and I'm not fluent. After Germany, I went to the Netherlands. That's where I did my university, and I trained to be a dancer. And that might surprise a lot of people. So I have a degree in modern dance. That's my degree. And when I graduated, I thought, I've had enough of that. That's enough. So, oh, I love Renata's there. Sehr gut. Yeah, so I stopped dancing. I thought I've had enough. I've had enough with that. I want to travel. I want to see the world. English. So I got
Okay.
I got qualified, and then the rest is history. That's everything in a nutshell, Paul. I mean,
Yeah, wow.
yeah. I
So
don't want to
let me
go
just,
on too long about that.
of course, I'm going to come back to the issue or the experience of your dance background because that's very interesting. But I wanted to also ask you, what was there a moment when you said, "Oh, I could be an English teacher"? Was it the idea of traveling?
Ooh, was it? Yes. No, I'm a I love traveling. I've been to so many countries in my life, and I thought, well, what can I do? I speak English. I should just teach English. I think a lot of TEFL teachers have that idea.
Oh, sorry, I think your sound just clipped
Oh,
out.
maybe it could be my
Oh,
hair
there we go.
brushing against my microphone.
There we go. You're back.
Oh, did I drop
So
out for a second?
you did, yes. It's okay. It happens.
Okay.
We are on other sides of the globe, so it's a kind of a
Yeah.
miracle that we're able to do this at all. But okay, so you became an English teacher. Now, was that in a language school or a high school or elementary school? Where did you
That was in
first?
a language school in England. And I cut out a very important part. After I graduated in the Netherlands, I got married, and my husband's English. So I moved to England. So if anyone's
I
curious,
see.
I live in England now. I got married. I got qualified to be an English teacher, and my plan was to travel, but I got hired by the school that I qualified in. So I actually never ended up traveling. I worked at the school on years, and then eventually my husband and I, we opened our own language school. And that was a
Okay.
challenge, as you can imagine, just running a business side of things, the accounting side of things, and then the teaching. Yeah, I'm really trying to squeeze everything, Paul, so I
Yeah,
don't take
sure.
up too much time
It's all right.
with the story. Long story short, we eventually had to close the school. A big reason was that we have a son, he's 10, and I have twin daughters, they are 7. So with the my husband and I, we couldn't continue running this language school. So that's how I thought, well, home because I have kids. Maybe I should teach online. Maybe I should start a channel. So that's where it all started, out of necessity.
And what? When did you start the channel?
2019.
2019. Okay.
Yes, and I procrastinated for about a year. I had this idea of starting a YouTube channel, and I was so nervous. I didn't know how am I going to teach online? How can I make video lessons? So I think it took me a year before I actually got the nerve to my first video.
What was what held you back? What were your hesitations? Just shyness on camera, or?
Yes, shyness on camera. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, which is not a positive thing. I think that has held me back a lot. I think trying to have everything perfect. I wanted perfect production. I wanted the perfect
Yeah.
video, and I think that back the longest. But I knew I just had to do it. So if you, ooh, I'm seeing that a couple of people having problems with the connection. Ooh. Paul, am I
think it's
glitching for you?
inevitable. A little bit. It's okay. It often happens with,
Yeah.
the internet's not perfect, and ultimately the internet is just a bunch of cables under the ocean. So
Right. Right. Okay.
it's okay. We can hear you very clearly. Just the image occasionally glitches.
Image. Huh. Hopefully it clears up. I have that with some of my online students. That it glitches for a while, then it clears up. So I hope it clears up for the audience. Yeah. Oh, Paul, what was your question? I forgot what you asked.
Me too. What was it? Well, we were talking about creating the channel, hesitations. Well, this question is sort of that question, the challenges you faced while
Yes.
you're pursuing your dream of YouTube channel. I understand the perfectionism thing. That's been a huge issue in my entire life.
Yeah.
And when you go on camera, I'm essentially an introverted, shy person. So when I go on camera, I labor over every detail before I feel comfortable, right?
Yes.
That's something you just have to contend with in life, and it just kind of gets magnified if you're going on camera. So I do understand that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you watch some of my earlier videos, people me, oh, you look very calm. You look so relaxed, but inside my heart is beating like crazy. So no, no, wasn't very comfortable at all. But I knew I had to go for it. And also, I'm really glad you invited me to this live because it's very similar. I would also, but I needed some way to just go for it, and
Yeah.
this was the perfect opportunity to go live. Yeah.
Ultimately, I think and I know I completely understand those feelings. It seems really weird to be live streaming, broadcasting, basically. I don't think either you or nor myself grew up thinking I want to be a TV broadcaster or even an actor. The
Right.
last thing on my mind, and that's what we're doing basically. But I think what gets me through it ultimately is that in the end, I'm just a guy alone in my room here at home,
Yes.
right? In the worst, if worst comes to worst, if I make a complete fool of myself, I can just click off. So
Yeah.
it takes away a bit of the pressure.
That's true. If it gets to that, I will click off as well. So if you ever just see me disappear, don't worry. It's just I said something or I've done something pretty bad. Yeah, but challenges, I think it's like starting anything new. You know, it's new learning how to edit videos. It's new putting yourself
Yes.
out there. And before I started, you know, YouTube, Instagram, you hear a lot of bad things about social media. Like, oh, there are a lot
Yes.
of trolls. Nobody can make it on YouTube. Just don't bother. And so there
Yeah.
are a lot of not negative feelings about putting yourself out there. And I think you just have to push through it. And I've been so surprised. The online community, they're so wonderful. Everyone's really friendly, or they have questions. They're eager to learn. So I get a lot of questions about English, and I love it. So please keep asking questions, everyone. I love to see what you have to say.
I think that's the way to approach content creation for us, because
Yes.
in the end we're trying to offer something and share our knowledge and experience to help
Yes.
other people.
Yes.
And if you're doing that sincerely, first of all, what bad thing can they say? I mean, they can make fun of my appearance or something, which isn't going to change, so it doesn't hurt me. And if they do say something bad, if you're acting out of sincerity to help your learners, the bad comments don't really bother you, right?
Yes. Yes.
And I think it's clear that you create content with the sincere intention, not of being a superstar and famous,
Yes.
but of helping learners,
Yes. Yeah, I
right?
think as a as a YouTuber, of course you want views, of course you want subscribers, but we're also educational channels. So a lot of times I'll choose a topic because I think this is what my students need, and I don't really expect it to get that many views, but I think it can be helpful. There's nothing clickbaity about it. It's just kind of plain Jane learning.
It raises the question too, because you are very popular on YouTube, and you deserve that. You deserve to be popular. And I say that because there are a lot of popular and quote unquote successful content creators across social media who I don't think are really contributing anything. That's a different topic, but
Yeah.
what I also think a lot of people don't understand is how much work it takes to produce one video
Yes.
for YouTube. Never mind manage your channel. You
Yes.
have to be the performer, educator. You have to, well, this is what I wanted to ask you. Do you do all of this alone? Do you produce all of your camera work, your graphics, your animations, which are excellent? Do you do, and the editing, and then the marketing, right? The promoting, if you do. Do you do all this by yourself?
I do. I do it all myself, and I love doing it. So, I don't actually have. Oh, show you a bit. Oh, let me just grab something. 1 second. Okay, make sure my microphone's not. My hair always brushing against my microphone. Well, so for example, this is my script, and you can see all my notes and probably like a coffee stain on it. So, pen marks. This is everything I wrote for my latest video. And it takes me about a week to write a script because sometimes the topics are just difficult
Yeah.
to find a way to put everything together in a really nice, easy to follow way. And that takes time.
Yeah.
Yes, I write the script, and then my husband, he's camera, he just sets it all up for me. And then when I'm filming, he makes sure, mine doesn't look like this, brush against the microphone, that. And after that, after filming for me, I can edit my videos, and I do edit them myself. A lot of people want to know how I edit my videos. Well, under every YouTube video, I put the software I use. So just to tell all of you, I use Canva and Camtasia, a combination of those two. And I spend maybe a week putting all the graphics together, making the animations. And if anyone does video editing, you'll know that a 30-second clip can take an hour, 2 hours to put together. Yeah, so it's a lot of work.
It's a
to
lot
make
of
one
work.
video.
And I think that's something that a lot of certainly a lot of young people who aspire to do content creation, I think they don't realize it. They will eventually learn,
Yes.
probably the hard way, how much work is involved. But especially if you're doing it alone, it's not as simple as just pointing the camera and saying something and then you go viral. It's just not that simple.
Exactly. Yes. And I forgot what I was going to say. So I've thought about, of course, hiring a video editor. I've thought about having someone else edit my videos for me to help save me some time. But when I do editors, and I just think, first of all, I love editing my videos. It's something I really enjoy, even though it takes me a week. I want to do it myself. And secondly, you need a video editor who is also a TEFL teacher, because how does a video editor know highlight the present a present participle? How do I tell someone highlight the hypothetical part in the sentence? Yeah, I kind of have to do it myself. Yeah.
Absolutely. I understand that when I do all that myself, and for me, editing is part of the creative process of creating content. Like the introduction to this show, I made entirely by myself out of this room.
Right, I love it.
Even though it looks like I'm in a city, I'm really not in a city. I'm on a green screen. But that editing is part of the sculpting process. And if, for example, you are making a feature film, a movie, the editor has studied storytelling, story structure, which is the same thing that the film directors and the actors know. So if they have a script, they understand how to tell that script with the images that they've been given by the director. So it's the same thing as an editor who doesn't understand teaching and TEFL trying to edit our videos. They don't know when to piece out the information for the benefit of the learner, right?
Yes.
So you kind of have to do it yourself.
You do, and sometimes while I'm editing, I think of a corny joke I want to squeeze in there, or a little funny animation. I think, ooh, or the sound effect, and I can't do that if someone else is editing my video. So I'm gonna continue to edit myself. And some people ask me, can you make more videos? I can really only make 2 videos a month because it takes so much time to do them the way I want to do them. Yes, Paul, I saw a great question come up, and I want to bring that up. Sleepwalker said, Paul, will you be a guest on Arnell's channel too? And I love that question.
Where is that? Let me see if I can.
Ooh.
I see. Well, if you're asking me, I'd love to,
And
of course.
The answer is yes. And that it's a great way for me to connect to the next thing about this. I also want to do lives. Absolutely, I'd love to have you as a guest. But going back to that hesitation, I've been putting off doing lives for about a year. So I think it's time I start doing lives soon. And we'll have Paul on the channel for sure.
Yay.
If he's
I will be available. No problem. I think live would be great for you because you have a large audience who wants to interact with you, and the YouTube videos are great, of course, but the interaction, the ability to interact is the key element of the live stream.
Yes.
For example, we can see Sleepwalker's question. We can say, hi, Sleepwalker.
Yes.
And that's really fun.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's and I'm hoping that I can even teach my lessons live by sharing, so my audience can see how I make graphics. I can hopefully so when I say soon, I mean a couple doesn't always mean soon.
Sure. It is a different it's a different skill set and different tools you need, but they are available. That's the great thing.
Yeah.
I'm using a system called Restream, and I've tried the other ones like StreamYard.
Yeah.
But Restream gives me the most flexibility. It allows the you install your own graphics, you choose
Yeah.
your colors,
Yeah.
so you can really implement your brand and your themes in a really great, really dexterous or flexible way. And I think,
Yeah, I mean, from this live, I've never been live, so I can kind of see what goes on behind the scenes. So this is new for me.
yeah, it's wonderful. And ultimately, it's funny because when I started my live stream, the biggest challenge wasn't the technical stuff because I was already using it to teach classes. The biggest
Right.
challenge was when to stream. Where I am on the West
Right.
Coast right now, it's early morning. And usually on Friday morning, I can't stream. We've been
Yeah.
planning this for a while, so I've made the time available. And I tried all kinds of different times to reach the most of my learners who are all over the world in different time zones.
Yeah.
But the challenge is, how do you do it sustainably? How can you do it regularly? Because that's the key with live streaming is
Yes,
have a
I agree.
regular schedule, whether it's weekly or monthly or whatever.
Yeah.
Have it so that people can expect it and rely on it. And the only time I could do that was my Friday evenings. Now,
Right.
Friday evening in the west coast of Canada, which, by the way, has 5 time zones across the
Yeah.
country.
Yes.
My Friday evening at 5 p.m., for example, puts my South American viewers in later into Friday night. They're probably having dinner with their families, or if
Right.
they're young,
Yeah.
they're probably out at parties. And meanwhile, the rest of the world is sleeping. It's 2 a.m.
Yeah.
So I've always been astonished when I'm streaming live at 5 p.m. my time that there are viewers in Europe, for example, at 2 a.m. who stay up to watch it. It's remarkable.
That's the great thing about the internet. I think someone's on somewhere, which is wonderful. So you're right. Someone might be up at 2 a.m. learning English. And that's what I love about, the online English learning community. They're always learning.
Yeah. And there's a tremendous hunger across the world for English ability, English skill. And I think when they find teachers that they like and they rely on and they trust, that's for me. I'm always moved by that. I'm touched by
Yeah.
seeing all these people here because
Yes.
ultimately I'm just a teacher alone in my room at home, and I work with my private clients online here. So most of my day is spent alone. And when
Yeah.
I stream and I can connect with all these wonderful learners around the world and teachers, it's just so humbling. It's magnificent.
It is. Yeah. Yes, I agree.
There was a question here for you, I think. What are your hobbies? From Detective P.
Well, Detective P, that is an excellent question. I I don't have a fun answer for you. Because I have 3 kids
Ah,
are my hobby. They're really young now, so I don't get much free time. If I have free time, I'm doing something, really exciting like laundry, or I'm buying groceries, or I'm cooking. So chores, that's my hobby. But if I think about something fun, I love reading. I can read anywhere. My personal goal is to read 2 books a month, which is kind of pushing it for me a little bit, but I love reading. So thank you for that question. Well, Paul, what about you? What are your hobbies? I don't really have any exciting hobbies.
well, unlike you, I do not have children, so I don't have that, which I know takes, well, it's a 24-hour day job,
Yeah,
of course. My hobbies are doing this. This is a
yeah,
hobby. This is not my profession. I
right.
work with private students. That's my profession. My hobbies are writing, reading, as with you.
Yeah,
I was just thinking about this earlier as I was setting up for the show. You can't see it off screen here, but I'm surrounded by bookshelves. And I was looking at books and going, I really want to read more. And
yeah.
I do a lot of reading in the summer. And also, this thought came to mind I want to share with you. I was looking at my books and going, I've got hundreds of books in front of me. I've
Oh,
never
nice.
had a bad experience reading a book.
Okay, right.
I mean, I've read books that weren't impressive, but the
Yeah.
experience of reading
Oh yeah, there's
has
never.
never
That's
been a
true.
bad experience.
I, I'm looking around for a book I'm reading at the moment, but it's not here. So, Paul, what was the last book you read that you remember?
Actually, right here, Terminal Boredom by
Oh
Izumi
wow.
Suzuki. And she's an amazing Japanese author who's coming. This is a recent publication, but she died by suicide
Yeah.
in the 1970s. And her book, her story, this is a collection of short stories, and her stories are fantastic. They are, let's say, proto-feminist. So
Okay.
it's very feminist
Right.
perspective, which is great, but they're science fiction.
Oh, so
So,
it's fiction. Oh, I thought it might be nonfiction,
right?
but it's fiction. Oh, okay.
It's and this is actually a photograph of her. She became quite a public figure in the 70s as a kind of counterculture. Feminism came to Japan a bit later than it did in the
Right.
Western countries, something they're still working through. But in the 70s, she was considered sort of a rebel or a rogue literary figure.
Yeah.
And part of it was her public image. She had this persona, kind of like what we might call now punk. She was very punk,
Okay. That
not
sounds really.
necessarily in fashion, but yeah, it's amazing. And her stories
Yeah,
are
I'm gonna
so
write that
brilliant.
down. Throne of Boredom. Why
Yeah,
not? Yeah.
yeah. It's available on Amazon or anywhere you get books, I think. This is
Yeah.
a recent publication of works that came out in the 70s, but they're kind of being rediscovered as there's a huge
Cool.
resurgence of women authors in Japan who
Yeah.
weren't being published in the 80s, 90s, and even 2000s, but now they're big business. So
Yeah.
publishing companies are going back in time and mining
Yes.
some of the earlier female writers who were ignored. She's
Right.
one of
Got
them.
it. See, that's what books can do for you. It just introduces you to a whole new world, which
Absolutely.
you can't find like in movies or areas, but books can do that for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. This is a question for you, but do you recommend reading to your learners? Because I do
Um,
all the time.
I do and I don't. I do because reading is always good for improving your vocabulary, but sometimes they ask me, "Oh, should I start reading?" And I think some consideration because if you're not at that level to enjoy a book, you're just studying. So for higher level students, absolutely, I think read if you enjoy it, read it if you have time. But sometimes a lower level student will show me a book, and I think, wow, that's for native, it's written for native English speakers. You might get frustrated reading. So don't feel guilty if you don't want to read. So that's what I say. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the same thing. Reading can be very
Yeah.
powerful and helpful, but you need some command of it. Otherwise, it's discouraging. If it's discouraging, that's really negative because we don't
It,
want our learners to ever be discouraged because it'll shut down their learning.
oh, absolutely. Someone might read a couple of pages, get frustrated, and then just stop. That's
Yeah.
not necessary. It's better to find an article on a topic you like, read a paragraph, maybe study that paragraph, and then that's good. You don't have to read novels.
Let's pause our interrogation of you, Arnell, for a moment and take a look at some of the
Okay.
questions that are already being asked. Let's turn the spotlight to Jonas. What is your main advice to learners? Do you have a sort of broad, sweeping philosophy or advice you could offer?
That is a big question. Main advice. My advice is everyday thing. The reason that is because sometimes people are very motivated. They cram in a lot of lessons. They watch lessons. They get burnt out. Do anything for a while, and you don't want to have this. You don't want to start and stop again and again. Do a little bit every day. So whether you watch a YouTube video, whether you read a paragraph somewhere, whether you have a private lesson, every day do something and never think you're not doing enough. If you do something every day, it will add up.
That's great advice. It kind of answers this question too. Your advice for those who want to accelerate their learning and reach the perfect level. I think you're onto something. I get asked this a lot too, right? How do I learn English quickly? How do I learn English easily? Personally, I never even use those words. I don't think you can learn English easily and quickly. It takes time
No.
and effort.
Yes.
And I'm always suspicious of influencers, not teachers, because a teacher would never tell you that, but influencers
Right.
who want you to buy a product or something and
Yes.
promise easy and fast methods of learning. I think it's not very honest.
Oh, correct. I think you might see something, learn English, like you said, quickly, there is no magic pill, and I think everyone's trying to find that magic pill that's going to help them learn English in a month, in 2 months, but it's really a long-term process, and it's a lifelong process, actually. Even as a teacher, as a native English speaker, I'm still learning. There's some novels I read and I think I've never seen before, and I think, wow, what's that word? So I'm still
Hmm.
learning. It's a lifelong process.
Absolutely. And for teachers as well, right? I think you're of the same mind as I am that learning is, we love learning. That's sort
Yes.
of the core of being an educator. You want to share that passion for learning.
Yes, and I'm still learning. I mean, sometimes I think I know a topic. Ooh, like I got this topic down, but then I look into it. I think I'm missing a few things actually. So yeah, I'm constantly learning as well.
We have a question here from Kamachi. Apart from being an English learner, I'm a mother of 2 kids and I also run a YouTube channel. By the way, feel free to put the link to your channel in the comments. How do you manage your time, Arnell? How do you do it?
My kids are a bit older now, so my son's 10 and my daughter's twin. So things have gotten a bit easier. A couple years ago, when they were really tiny, it was really how did I manage my time? Well, sometimes I don't. I can't. I just do what I can. I do what I can. I don't think you can manage your time perfectly every day. I think it's not possible. So I will say I'm very efficient. I have a to-do list every day. I will wake up early some mornings to get some work done. If I have to publish a video soon, I will wake up at 6 in the morning to do it before my kids get up, beating my videos. Hi, Kamachi. Question. You know, even though this is my job, I still love it. So some evenings I will continue working. That's how I can do it, but I don't always manage my time.
Yeah.
It's not always.
It's a daily struggle, really, isn't it?
It is. I think you just have to accept some days I'm not going to get this done. I do want to make more content for you guys. I wish I could, but it's just, I have to be okay with that. I can't move faster than what I'm already doing.
It also sounds like you have a realistic and sustainable system for your videos. You mentioned that you do was it two per month?
2 per month, two like long videos
Right?
a month. I might be able to squeeze in some shorts, but not always. So yeah, two a month I'm capable of.
Yeah, it's good that you did you learn that, or has that always been your system? Did you learn it the
I
hard way?
think No, I think that's always been my system. Even when I was in school, middle school, I would wake up early if I didn't finish my homework. I'm an early bird, so for me, waking up early to get things done is something I've always done.
I'm the same way. I wake up very early.
Right.
Always have. Even as a child, when I was growing up, for example, my brother, we had one television. That's how old I am. And my brother, either my brother or my father occupied the TV. My
Right.
father all evening.
Yeah.
And of course, he watched news and scary stuff that I wasn't allowed to watch. So
Yeah.
what I would do is I would go to sleep, and I had my father's old alarm clock, and I would set it to like 2 a.m., wake myself up,
Wow.
and I would watch a local channel that broadcast Japanese movies, like
Oh, wow.
Chinese kung fu movies,
Yeah, yeah.
Japanese samurai movies, and monster movies. And that was my first exposure to Asian cultures.
Right.
I'm in a multicultural country, so I had Asian friends, but it was a window into their culture, which
Yeah.
sort of, well, that started my personal interest in Asian culture. But
Oh,
it also developed the habit of waking up really early.
yeah. I mean, 2 a.m., that is really early. You're not kidding.
Consequently, my schoolwork suffered because I was a zombie all day. But
Yeah, yeah.
ever since then, I've been an early riser, and that's how I manage my time. I get personal things done early, personal
Yeah.
writing, personal things, and then when the workday begins, I feel that I've given myself the treat of
Yeah.
hobbies and stuff,
Yeah.
and then
Yes.
I'm ready to devote myself to my work. I just want to mention we have a friend of mine, teacher
Oh,
Jack from the A to Z English podcast. Hi, Jack. Hopefully, you're
hello,
doing
Jack.
well. Jack and his partner Sochel have this A to Z English podcast, which is really fun. And they've got a great rapport on screen. It's really nice. I have another question for you, Arnell.
Yes.
Where was it now? Yeah, here we go. Let's talk about the future.
Sounds good.
What projects are you working on? Any new projects or videos, or do you have plans to expand your YouTube channel or start another one?
Ooh,
What do you think
no
about the
plans to
future?
start another one. One's enough for me. One channel is good, maybe in the future. But I'm hoping to start live soon. I want to start teaching live, maybe once a month, twice a month. I'll see what I'm capable of. But I do have an ambitious project. I can actually show you. Some of my students might know that I've written a couple of workbooks. So I have a workbook on the 12 English tenses. I have a workbook on the conditionals, grammar workbooks, and I really enjoy making them. So my next project, my next workbook is going to be about phrasal verbs. So Paul, I have a list here. Guess. I want you to guess how many phrasal verbs. Oh, you can see the numbers. Okay, guess how many phrasal verbs I have.
Just at a glance, it looks like 300, perhaps 200, 400.
More.
I would say 400, 500.
Close. I have 564 phrasal verbs here that
Amazing.
I've put together over a few months. I've collected all these phrasal verbs that I think are useful, and I'm putting them in a book. Oh, good guess. Someone said 500 there. Paul, is that
Yeah,
you? Are
Detective
you
P.
Detective P?
No, that's one of our regular viewers,
Oh,
Detective
for a second,
P.
I was like, is that Detective Paul? No, that's someone else. Okay.
Yeah, I call my audience Gumshoes, the grammar
Yeah,
Gumshoes. So they're all learning how to be detectives.
got it. Yeah, so that's yeah, a lot of phrasal verbs, and I've been breaking it down every day. This is my list of the first 100 phrasal verbs I'm working on. Every day I try to get a couple done. I can cross it off my phrasal verb list. Yeah, that's a big project, and I don't know when it's
That's great.
gonna be ready. Yeah.
So that also answers a question here about good books for teaching English. It sounds like you're producing Arnell's Everyday English books, which is a great
Yes, yeah.
plan.
I mean, I love making content, so books is another way for me to go. Well, Paul, what about you? Do you have any projects coming up?
Yes, my projects are slow moving. I have another YouTube channel I began this year that is going to focus on writing, because my professional work is not teaching grammar. My professional work is teaching writing skills. So
Right.
that's something I haven't really created online content for, except for my writing podcast, which is discussion and occasionally sort of presentational. So I am planning to spend more time developing that channel and perhaps doing a live stream where I'm introducing writing techniques and
Right. Yeah.
tips. So that's one project on the horizon. And the
Oh,
other project is my own writing. I've been working on a novel for 3 years. And
got it.
it's
Yeah.
coming along, but
Oh,
that's a big time consumer.
I'm sure you have to let us know what your novel is when it comes out.
I will
For
do so,
sure. Yeah.
definitely.
Yes. Oh, that's ambitious.
It's funny. Yeah, I mean, writing is sort of the center of everything reading and writing and books have kind of been the center of my relationship to language since I was a
Yeah.
child.
Yes.
You know, as a child, I read so much. It's really all I did. I was almost nonverbal as a child.
Right.
And reading was, I would spend entire days in the library. The library was my babysitter. And, you know, I kind of abandoned it. And after, in my young adult, my first career was as an investigator. And eventually I realized, well, okay, I'm no longer as young. When I was young, I thought that was a cool job. I
It
was a
sounds
young
cool. I have to say,
adult
it sounds
male.
cool. Yeah.
But the truth is, it's not a great lifestyle. It's very
Okay.
stressful, it's very time consuming, and I didn't have time for
Right.
anything. And there was something missing in my life, and that's what eventually brought me back to language and teaching and
Yeah.
reading and writing. So reading and writing are at the core of everything I've been doing. And there was a point in my life where I decided, okay, you know, we talk about bucket lists. What are the things you want to accomplish before
Yeah.
you're the end of your life? And it really struck me as I approached middle age that there's one thing that I have to do to give my time on earth meaning, and that is write a book. When I was in
Right.
university, I published some short stories, which kind of validated my suspicions that I could write,
Yeah.
and motivated me to continue.
Yes.
So I write every morning. That's what I do when I first wake up early and there's no distractions.
Yeah.
But that's my sort of life, what's the life project, I suppose. So I've got 2 novel projects underway.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, one is
Really, I mean, it's
almost
not
done.
easy.
So
I mean,
it's coming
that's easy to
along.
write a novel. That's a,
It's a huge project, and like learning a language, Arnell, it's something, it's like climbing a mountain. If you're climbing Mount Everest, you don't look at the top and go, let's go for it. You set small
right.
intermediary goals, right? Let's
Yes.
get to that. Let's get to 1 kilometer by the end of today. And you break it down. And just like learning a
Yeah.
language, anyone can write a novel, but you've got to devote the time to it regularly, whatever
Yes.
regularly means for
That's
you.
right, yeah.
For me, it means every day.
Quick
Yeah.
question about your writing channel. Is that for anyone who wants to be a writer, or is it specifically aimed at
Yes, it's not devoted to like creative writing or fiction writing. It's devoted to academic writing, essay writing, and
wow, oh, that's
specifically for
yeah.
language learners. So it's called The Writing Workshop. And actually, I just realized I don't have the QR code here. But if you do go to my YouTube channel, Grammar Detective, at the bottom is linked the Writing Workshop channel. And as I said, it's brand new. There isn't a lot of content except for the podcast on it. But it will very soon become more of my focus than the Grammar Detective. With
right.
the
Well,
goal
that's
of,
important.
yeah,
Lots of people
and
need to
it's
improve their writing.
absolutely. And, you know, I've noticed that there aren't a lot of YouTube channels that really offer sort of training in writing craft. So
Right.
I thought I would,
Yeah.
and it's what I do professionally to my private clients. And I thought, you know, had I recorded all of my private sessions with my clients,
Yeah.
I could have a ton of material. One of my students actually pointed out to me, like,
Yes.
we've been together for 5 years, weekly. Why isn't, because you can record on Zoom, for example, without the other person's image.
Right.
You could just
yeah.
on your,
Yes.
so there's no betrayal of their confidence. But anyway, I will put more
Well, now
material
you
on there
know,
because
and you can start recording the lessons.
exactly. Let's find another question here for you. I think I missed one from Kamachi. Where are we? Oh, by the way, I want to say something here to anyone in Brazil, especially in the south. There's a huge disaster right now, the flooding of the rivers.
Oh,
So Renata and others from Brazil, maybe my friend Chris is here. Do take care and stay safe, please. I know it's a challenging time down there. I think I missed a question here. Oh yes, about health. As we said, content creating is really hard work. So how do you take care of your health? Do you do
My
something
health.
like yoga?
Oh, I don't do yoga. Once a week, I do disco fit. And if you want to know what disco fit is, it's it's aerobics to disco music. If you can imagine that.
Okay.
And yes, there are strobe lights. So I do love dancing. It's not a hobby. Someone asked me about hobbies earlier. So this is just, it's once a week. I can kind of just exercise for 1 hour, listen to music. So yeah, I dance disco once a week. Maybe I should post a video of that. See how that goes down. So that's, good exercise, good fun once a week. But day to day, how do I take care of my health? Well, I guess I don't always. I should move more. I sit at my desk maybe 12 hours a day. I should move more.
Right.
Yeah, I eat well. I think I get enough
That's
sleep,
good.
but I don't do anything specific to really stay healthy, but I probably should.
I want to go back to what you mentioned about your dancing when you studied dance.
Yeah.
Do you think your dancing has helped you in some way with your video content? Because I have to admit, one of the things I noticed right off the bat, right away when I started watching your videos, was how poised
Ooh,
you seem on camera, and I mean physically
you.
poised.
Yeah.
It was very striking.
Thank you, Paul. I think it has helped a bit. I trained to be a performer, so even though when I first started my YouTube channel, I was so nervous about being on camera, but I do know how to present. During my 4 years studying dance, I also took drama, so yeah, I guess it has helped me with my channel. Perhaps just a projection. I don't know. That's my
Yeah,
answer, Paul. Maybe.
fair enough.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it also. This is something I didn't realize when I first started making content was I knew about it, but I didn't practice it, but the value of posture and voice.
Yeah. Yes.
Quick shout out to another content creator named Elisa James from Australia. She's a voice coach for performers. And I learned a lot about that from her. But it's something you probably picked up in your training of the relationship between posture and voice and breathing and all that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yes. It's funny you mentioned that. I actually did have a class called breathing. And this wasn't a big subject. I had a couple of lessons, and you just have to breathe in and you have to visualize your breath going out. That was a lesson. It was kind of like meditation, and that was for dancing and breathing, because a lot of times if you dance, you might just kind of be tight like this, but it's just to get your breath going and to relax. Yeah, but I never connected that to actually teaching before, but there be a connection.
Here's a question from Ludmila from, I think she's in Siberia. What about books for children? Do you have any thoughts about that?
I have to apologize. I've never taught children. My entire career has been teaching adults, so I can't give you a good answer. I'm really sorry.
Nor I. I've never worked with children. I've worked with
No,
high school students, but not.
not children. I know there are some good YouTube channels. I don't know the names, but there are some good YouTube channels for children. But I don't have the names of any good books.
If any of our viewers have an idea, please share that.
Yeah.
Someone asked another question here let me just find it. Here we go. What is your zodiac sign, Arnell?
Well, can anyone guess in the comments?
Yeah, that's a better question. Try to
Yeah.
guess our
Guess what
zodiac
our
signs.
signs are. We'll see what anyone comes up with.
Yeah, what is your most watched video on YouTube? And what's the topic? What grammar topic?
My most popular video is on the conditionals. And I don't know why that's my most popular. I think that's when I released
Okay.
it. And it covers the four conditionals and mixed conditionals. And yeah, it's just a popular video. I think that's one thing on YouTube. You never know
Right.
what's going to do well. Even now, after all these videos, all these years, I still don't know what's going to take off or not. Okay, interesting guesses. Are any of them right for you, Paul? Scorpio, Taurus, Gemini, Virgo, any
Yes,
of those?
I'm Virgo. I was born in September,
Ah, okay. I
a
haven't
long
seen
time
mine
ago.
yet. Long time ago.
Oh, sorry. Where are we? What about this guess? I think they're just going through the list.
Probably you'll get to mine eventually. I'm Pisces.
Pisces, okay.
Yeah.
So apparently they can't tell from watching us on screen.
Good. It's funny. A lot of people know their zodiac sign, but they don't necessarily believe in astrology. But everyone knows their sign.
Everyone knows. I'm among those. I don't believe in it, but I know what it is because
Yeah.
people always ask me. Here on the west coast of Canada, much like the west coast of the US, like California, I live in a place called Vancouver. Vancouver is very much like Southern California. It's
Okay.
very liberal, very counterculture, very hippie, very zodiac.
Okay. Yeah.
So people are always asking, and I didn't grow up here, so when I first moved here, I was quite struck by the cultural difference. I grew up in
Right.
Toronto, in the central part of Canada, which is a lot more like New York.
Got it. Yeah. I've never been to
Quite
Vancouver. I've been
different.
to California. My grandpa, he used to live in San Diego. But yeah, I've been to Canada.
Please come sometime.
I
It's
should. Yeah.
people often ask, about the differences between US and Canada. US is high profile. You see the US in movies and TV, and you don't necessarily see Canada. There are a lot of differences, but we also share a lot of similarities being on the
Yes.
same continent and being basically siblings, is how I'd like to put it. And certainly language, if you're looking at the differences from a language point of view, we speak English, of
Yeah.
course, and some regions, U.S. has a larger population and is older, so there are more distinct variations of accent around the
Right.
country
Okay.
than in
Yeah.
Canada. I would say Canadian accent tends to be a little bit more like the Midwest, a little bit
Oh,
more like
okay. Right.
Indiana.
Yeah.
But then if you're on the West Coast, something a little more specific, like Vancouver, tends to sound a little bit more like California, right? With that sort of stretched out vowel thing
Okay.
they
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. I can't do.
And then on the,
I not do accents. So yeah, that's a good one.
and then
Yes, it's true.
the east of Canada tends to sound a little bit more like New York, a little more nasal sound, a little
Yeah.
more fast.
Got it.
There's also a funny feature on the West Coast that I know is true of California, and I noticed this when I first moved out west, was that they do this thing where even with grammatical statements, they lift the
Yeah.
tone at the end and turn it into a question,
Oh,
right? Like, oh, that's a really nice shirt.
that's one of my pet peeves, Paul. Is
Yeah,
someone ending everything they say in a question. It doesn't matter what they're saying.
yeah. Oh my
It's
God, it's
always a
so
question.
cool.
Yes.
Yeah. When I first moved to the West Coast, Arnell, I was listening to everyone ask, I was like, why is everyone so confused? Are they idiots? Like, what's going on here?
You're just busy
Everyone
answering
has,
everyone's questions.
yeah, everything's a question here. Why are they so confused? Don't they go to school? It was really quite funny. And I've tried consciously not to adopt that accent.
Right? Yep.
Okay, let's see what else is. I want to be respectful of your time too. So we are getting close to the what's the called? The witching hour. The Cinderella turns into a pumpkin.
Yeah. Sure. I'm not sure. Yeah, that's an idiom, but okay.
Kamachi has asked about your apps, but she's already answered that question. If you scroll up, you'll see the apps
Yeah,
that she's
I'll just
mentioned.
squeeze it in quickly. If you're new here, I use Canva and Camtasia, a combination.
Virgo doesn't like criticism. That's interesting. I love criticism. Oh, do you have mosquitoes in the UK?
Not so mosquitoes do exist here, but it's never a problem. Not where I live, at least. Yeah. So we have mosquitoes, but they're not a problem.
Okay. Here's a question from Teacher Jack of the A to Z podcast. If you had a superpower, what would it be? Which one would you want?
You know, Paul, I think I'm getting older. I think I don't want an exciting superpower. I don't want to fly. I don't want to be invisible. I don't have an exciting superpower.
Maybe this is something along those lines. How do you feel about music? Do you like to listen to music as a hobby or
I
as
do
a
when I'm.
dancer?
Oh, I love music. And I don't have a specific genre that I like. I love any music that makes me feel happy or energetic. So all types of music. When I'm cooking and cleaning, I always have my music in. I can't cook or clean without music. So yes, I listen to music a lot.
Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, let's see if I've missed anyone. Oh, happy Mother's Day in advance.
Thank you.
Someone's asking me superpower. Yeah, I don't really want a superpower. Well, if I could play music, I would like to be able to play some musical instruments. When I was
Okay,
younger,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
learned some musical instruments and actually had a band, but we were an electronic band, and my role was programming and that sort of non-musical work, and I had a
Yes.
musical partner. So I've always admired musical talent. You know, like what do they call that? The ear for music, the ability to identify notes and things like that. I can't,
I
as much as I
I
love
don't have that
music.
either. I have a really bad ear. Part of my when I was at university, we had to take singing because the performing arts university, singing was one of them. The teacher would play a note on the piano, and all the students had to repeat the sound. I was the only one in the class who had no idea what I was supposed to be reproducing. And my teacher looked at me and said, "Huh, I've never met anyone with this problem before." So that made me feel really, really good about myself. But yeah, I have a terrible ear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Teacher Jack on his podcast recently did an episode about pet peeves. And we just said one of our shared pet peeves is
Yes.
that lifting up, that uplift
Yeah.
of intonation,
Yeah.
which is also very confusing for language learners. When they hear that, they don't know when to uplift and when not to.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Things like that, by the way, learners out there, are one of the reasons why learning English by watching movies and music and listening to music can be problematic, because in music there are poetic elements that may be confusing, figurative language.
Yes.
And
Yes.
in movies, you're being exposed to conversational English, regional accents, and
Yeah.
some of those oddities of intonation, which can be confusing. I think you have to combine exposure with study and actual learning as well. It all works together. I have a question for you, Arnell, and I do want to be mindful of the time here. Maybe as a sort of a summarization of what you've noticed in your time with a YouTube channel. Of all the different and as a teacher in general, of all the different grammar, and I'm focused here only because this is essentially a grammar live stream,
Right.
what aspects of English grammar do you find your learners struggle with the most? What are the 3 top worst?
Out of all the tenses, it's the present perfect. I think because it's not always clear exactly when to use the present perfect. So the present perfect I would put at number 1. I think that's one of the most challenging things to learn. And then I don't have any specific ones. I think prepositions are a big one. Because a lot of times there are no rules. Prepositions are often random. Like you could have rules like at 7 o'clock, in February, things like that. But a lot of times prepositions are random. Yeah, I can't think of 2 right now, Paul. Tenses, prepositions, and everything else can kind of get lumped into number 3.
I would add to that, those are clearly the same for me in my experience, but I would also add, and it's a more general or broad
Yeah.
element, but the word order, when
Oh,
to
that's a great
when and
one.
where to put the adverbs, where
Yes.
and when can you, especially adverbs because they're so movable.
Yeah.
I think that can be really troubling, especially because of the interference from their native languages, which have very different word sequences.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's a really good one to add. Absolutely. Yes.
And also, I think different learners from different language backgrounds, they all have different problems. I work with a lot of Japanese students, and their language has 0 article use. So for them
Right.
to learn articles is it's a lifetime challenge because
Yeah.
their brains are not trained to know that you need an article. Never mind the
Yeah.
grammar rule about when and where to use it. In
Yes.
fact, what I've noticed with Japanese learners is they can read an English text and they can read and pronounce the words. And sometimes they simply do not see the article.
That has
Their
happened to me
minds
as
are not
well.
trained
That's
to
true.
identify it.
Yeah. Yes. Even when reading aloud, that's right. Some students will skip kind of articles or even
Yeah.
prepositions here and there. Yeah, that's right.
If you don't have a mental reference for something, your eyes will simply not notice it.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry,
That's a really
I
good
just
point.
removed Jack. So Jack agrees the present perfect, yeah. And Jack, by the way, teaches in South Korea. So he works with a lot of students who
Oh,
are
wow.
struggling with present perfect as well. Hinata, I agree 100%. Arnell is one gifted teacher.
Thank you.
Gifted and skilled. You obviously
Thank
weren't
you
born
really,
with
thank
all of
you
your knowledge.
very much for that, Paul. Thank you. I'm still learning. I'm still trying. Oh,
Let's
Paul, I just noticed one of my students. Sorry to interrupt you there, but Katia, still learning how to pronounce your name. Um, there we go. Katia, is that correct? Katia? See, I still can't get it. She's tried to teach me so many times how to pronounce her name. It's something I struggle with. Um, how do you always stay positive?
This is a good question to maybe wrap things up with.
Yeah, it's a really nice one. Because I enjoy what I do. I love making lessons. I love being a teacher. I love teaching everyone. When I get a question or even a criticism, going back to you, Paul, saying that you like criticism. For me, criticism is just it's enough. I love what I do, and I'm always happy to work to create more lessons and more materials.
And we are all the better for that. I think all the audience will agree that your hard work, your positivity, your skills, your gifts are shared with us. And that's a tremendous, what's the word? That's a tremendous gift to the world, Arnell. And I hope everyone appreciates the work you do, the content you create, the person you are, the educator you are, and I hope they all appreciate you joining us here today to answer some of these
Well,
questions.
I've had a great time, Paul. This has been really, thank you.
And I'm sure everyone has more questions. I have more questions, so perhaps we'll leave that for another day, but it must be getting late where you are, and I'm sure you have other things to do than hanging out with a grammar detective on the internet.
I could talk about grammar all day, but you're right, Paul. I just heard my kid just got in through the door, so
Fair enough.
I have to go and do some fun stuff like
So-
cook now.
If you haven't already, folks, please subscribe to Arnell's YouTube channel, Arnell's Everyday English. Just scan the QR code. Thank you so much, Arnell, for joining me here. It's been a tremendous honor for me.
Thank you for
Great
having me.
pleasure. And I'm your #1 fan. So thank you for everything you do and everything you are.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give her a big round of applause. Thank you, Arnell. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was wonderful. I'm so glad to be able to share this live stream with you guys and introduce some of you for the first time to teacher Arnell. Please subscribe to her channel. It's fantastic. She's my favorite YouTube creator. I think her work is fantastic. Her videos are so helpful. I recommend them to all of my students. So please follow her YouTube channel. And if you don't mind, follow mine too. I'd appreciate that. We'll be back next Friday with another live stream. I think 2 more, and then I'm going to shut down for the summer because my studio just gets too hot and I don't feel like cooking myself. So thank you all for joining us today. It's been wonderful to meet you, those of you who are new to my channel and my live stream. It's great to have you all with us, and I'll see you next time. Until then, please keep learning English, keep studying, and as always, please stay cool. Watching tonight's show. If you have an English grammar question, an English mystery, contact me on social media and send me a video of you asking the question. I'll investigate it on a future show. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell button to get all the updates about videos and events. If you're feeling generous, you can also donate to the production costs of the show at Patreon or buy me a coffee. Finally, until the next time I see you on Hard-Boiled English Live, I want you to keep learning English. Stay healthy and stay cool.